Kevin Harrington, the original Shark, many other things. We're going to talk about the whole Shark Tank thing. But I appreciate you giving us a little time, Kevin, sitting down with us.
It's great to be here, Dan.
Great to have you.
Thanks.
And before we get into the Shark Tank and all the questions everybody wants to know, you've been dubbed as the inventor of the infomercial. I know that you launched your first one over like 30 years ago.
Yes.
But how has that business changed, especially with the introduction of technology, social media, m-commerce, all that?
Yes.
Changed much?
So yeah, absolutely. So 30 years ago, how it started, I saw bars on the screen on TV, and I called the cable company and asked why didn't they have programming there, and they said because they couldn't afford all the programming at those late night hours. So I started programming with products, and so I said, I'll give you the Jack LaLanne juicer and the Tony Little Gazelle and the George Foreman cleaning products and whatever else, right, or grill.
Yeah.
So that's how that started. But now, since then, the viewership, the audience viewership is down 50% in the last 12 years. Wow. So what's happened is, why are people not watching TV? They're watching their computer. They're watching their mobile phone. You mentioned m-commerce. That's really what's happening. So now the TV stations are still generating similar revenues, but there's half the viewers. So TV isn't working near as well. So now you have to incorporate into your campaigns the other kinds of commerce. And we say the other channels of distribution.
Yeah. And I know you've launched over 500 products. I think it was like over 20 went to like 100 million in revenue, which is mind-boggling. How do you focus on all that? I'm sure some of them are launched at the same time. So there's a saying in business, if you chase two rabbits, you don't get either. How do you not split your focus, or do you have people involved with each separate product?
Yes. So we had at one time we had a fishing infomercial that was rolling out, and we had that was called the Flying Lure. Then we had a golf infomercial called the Medicus Golf Club, and then we had a fitness infomercial with Tony Little. So at one time we were running fitness, golf, and fishing all at once. Now you're in 3 different industries, so you have teams of people that are doing all that, all that kind of distribution. So a lot of the same functions happen on the media buy. So you're buying media, taking phone calls, shipping product. That's all one entity. But then you have kind of satellite teams that focus on the specific niche industry that you're in. So it actually wasn't that tough because the core business was finding products, producing shows, and buying media, shipping product. And then we had satellite teams that would help in the retail and global distribution.
Unbelievable. Well, I started as a young entrepreneur, 19. I read that you had started, was it a driveway company when you were like 15, and then when you were in college, it was like a heating and air.
Yes.
And eventually, I think it became so successful, you decided to kind of follow that and kind of drop out of the college route.
Yes.
As we know, when you first start in business, you have some naysayers of like, get a real job, and they're security driven. Was it hard for you to kind of pull the trigger and say, well, I'm going to go for it? Or did you have
my mother was the first one that was the naysayer, okay? My mother was very upset because I'm one of 6 kids. My oldest sister was a school teacher and graduated summa cum laude from college. And then my next older sister was a school teacher. One married a doctor, one married a lawyer. My brother was a corporate executive for Gillette. I came along. I came along and I said, I'm sealing driveways and doing air conditioning systems, and quit school. But I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do the rest of my life. What I wanted to do was own my own business and control my own destiny. So my mother, while she was upset, it took her a few years, but then she understood because you have a passion and you have a place that I think you're meant to be. And for me, it was controlling my own destiny. I couldn't sit and work for somebody else like the rest of my family had done.
Well, you certainly have done a great job controlling your own destiny. And I have to imagine that you've become kind of like that guy now. I mean, you're the guy that has the recipe for, taking an idea and making it into this multi-million-dollar product or company. Is it kind of like everywhere you go, people are like, hey, man, let's grab lunch. And then, by the way, I know I was telling one of my guys on the way up here that there was a time where I was working on business plans. I would help people facilitate funding, and I kind of got that niche. And it was a good thing and a bad thing because we would get invited out. Specifically, one time we got invited to dinner, and I told my wife, baby, we got to go out. We're going to, I don't know, it's not going to be anything about business, it's just a social, which they, as soon as we got out there, we have dinner, everything was great. And then they said, well, let's move into the family room where we'll be more comfortable.
Right.
When I'm going to sit, I thought I saw a projector, but when I sat down, I turned the whole wall of the business. But you kind of get that, it's like everywhere you go, there's some pits.
Just walking into our production today, the guy valet parking my car, he says, are you that guy from Shark Tank?
Oh.
And so when it really gets bad is when it's the masseuse that's you're going in to get a massage because you need to get a break, right? When the masseuse is trying to pitch you a product, right? So no, but I'll say this. I've taken over 50,000 pitches in the last 30 years, and that's my business. So now there's a time and a place for it. My wife gets upset if we're having dinner and somebody is trying to do that. But I always take a card. I always get a phone number. I always return a call and make sure that I can at least get somebody to help me take a look at the project. Because the day that stops happening is the day I'm out of business, right? So I still enjoy hearing from people. It's just not 24/7. You need a little break in the action,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
I know that is, and of course after the interview I want to talk to you about something, but no. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I do want to talk a little bit about Shark Tank and some of the other things that you're involved in. Stick with us. We'll be right back with Kevin Harrington. Don't go anywhere.
Real estate today offers incredible opportunities, low prices, and extremely low interest rates. Hi, I'm Amy Norris from Amy Sells the Beach. Right now, there are opportunities in all areas. Our team can help you put your money to work finding your dream or investment property. And if you're looking to sell, no one can give you better exposure to buyers and make your property stand out. Experience matters when looking for opportunity. I'm Amy Norris. See why we're #1 at amysellsthebeach.com.
When visiting Gulf Shores, Alabama, make sure to visit the Gulf Coast Zoo, home of the little zoo that could from Animal Planet. Get up close in our petting zoo. Enjoy our unique animal encounters. More than 300 monkeys, bears, reptiles, big cats, parrots, and more call Gulf Coast home. Come on, go wild at the Alabama Gulf Coast Zoo.
Okay, we're back with Kevin Harrington. Kevin, I have to ask you, recently I read an article in Forbes magazine, just a month or two. It was talking about things, finding the right investor and things you can do to acquire funds for your idea. I know one thing you talked about is really finding out what their interests are before you just go pitch.
Right.
But for those that didn't read the article, and you should go read the article, what are some other keys or key factors to acquiring funding or getting your product launched?
So there's several things. I say there's 10 investor sweet spots because some people and you don't have to have all 10 of these for any one investor. Sure. Sometimes it could just be one thing that will get the investor excited. So some like to hear about patents or intellectual property, whether you have some ownership of something unique. Others like to see, like in the case of an Instagram, massive quick growth. They don't care about profits. So if you're talking to an investor that wants to see quick growth, he would prefer not to see profits because then he's thinking you're leaving money on the table that you could have invested back into the growth of the company. But other investors, if you don't have profits, they're not even going to pay any attention to the deal. So you have to key in on what is the sweet spot of the investor. That's number one. Secondly, you've got to put together a great business plan and an elevator pitch in your business plan, because I get dozens and dozens a week of proposals. And if I get something that's 45 pages long and it takes me 30 minutes to get into it to figure out what it is, I just don't have time for it. So you have to know how to write a good business plan. And and with an executive summary. And then one of the key things that I look for now, and I learned this the hard way from Shark Tank, I made some investments on Shark Tank where I bought the entrepreneur and I invested in that you know, they say the jockey, right?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't have a team. And so they went through, one lady went through $500,000 in 6 months because it was just her. She had no advisors, nobody around her to help her. So it was a bad deal for me.
Yeah.
I won't invest anymore unless there's a team. I want to see an advisory board, a strong board of advisors, board of directors, people that have financial skills, operational skills, in addition to the entrepreneurial skills.
Yeah, sure.
Okay? So you know, when you start thinking about how do you stack the deck in your favor if you're raising capital, you know, I'm on about more than 15 boards and advisory boards myself. So I've helped companies that, you know, I helped a small little startup out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, raise $1 million in cash, take off, and go to the moon. You know, another company I joined about 2 years ago was at about $5 million in sales. They're now at about $50 million in sales. They're in 28,000 retail outlets. So get somebody that can help you, that has a vision, that has a track record, to be part of your team. Now, I did those deals. I didn't have to own huge equity. I got an advisory position, a little bit of stock, you know, a little compensation package type of thing. That's part of what I enjoy doing. But there's a lot of people that are like this out in the marketplace. I utilize them for my deals. So if I'm raising capital, I put a good team together, I put a good pitch together, I put a good business plan together, a good executive summary, and if you have all of those elements, you're going to likely raise the capital.
Sure. And obviously you were immensely successful before Shark Tank. I think it's safe to say, though, Shark Tank definitely expanded the notoriety and to the public view. What was it like, the experience in general of being on Shark Tank?
Shark Tank was a great experience because, number one, it's a hit show on ABC Network, so it's seen by 20 million people every week. So it put me into a position to be able to get tremendous deal flow. And any business person, one of the things you look for is how do you build your funnel, right? Okay, so your funnel it starts here, loaded up, and then it's, you know, you have I call it a hopper, and down at the bottom you spit good ones out, right? But you have all this due diligence that has to happen here. So it wasn't, the deals that I did on Shark Tank weren't the great situations for me as an investor. Those were okay, and I made some money on a few of those. I mean, this is a jewelry company that I bought, Aldo Orta Jewelry, for example. A couple other deals that did very well, right? But it was the deal flow that came to me because I was on the show, and that was very, very exciting. And it continues. You know, this is now. I got the call in 2008 from Mark Burnett. I shot the pilot in 2009. Here we are, almost going into 2015. I've been involved with this brand for 7 years, so it's been a really nice run.
Well, certainly you brought a lot of value to the show, but I'm sure, as you mentioned, you've gleaned a lot, I'm sure, from the experience of the show, seeing so many people learning, don't invest in a one-man band or...
exactly.
Well, certainly. What about, do you still have some JVs with some of the guys on Shark Tank? What was it like working with them?
I mean, O'Leary and myself go on a tour together here and there. O'Leary, yeah.
Like a wild man, just
hanging
out with him.
You know what I say? Why does he call himself Mr. Wonderful? Because nobody else will. Okay, all right. That's Mr. Wonderful. He's a funny guy, actually. He loves guitars. He and I did the National Association of Music Manufacturers show. Then we were at another it was the direct response marketing show down in San Diego. So he would go on stage, I would go on stage. I do the same thing with Damon John, with Barbara Corcoran, with Robert Herjavec. We all kind of work together and run around. So there were 10 sharks. I don't know if you knew Jeff Foxworthy was a shark, and then John Paul DiGiorio was a shark, and one of the Tisch brothers was a shark. So there's been some really cool sharks that have come out of the show, and some big deals, some pretty good successes. So
what are some of the big mistakes that you've seen on the show? I know I've seen episodes so many times where somebody's saying, we're going to do, we need $200 or $200,000 in equity. We're going to give 10%, And so you're like, okay, so currently you're evaluating your company at $2 million. What do you have in sales right now? $15,000.
Right.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Probably the first thing people make a big mistake on is their valuation. The second thing they make a big mistake on, they only think about themselves, and they think that it's me. They're, I don't like to say it this way, but sometimes they're very greedy about what they want. But really, what they have to do is convince the shark to write a check. Yeah, so you have to think, what is it that will make the shark make the investment? It has to be exciting to the shark. Yeah. What I try to do, because I raise capital for projects that I get involved with, right? So if I've got a project I needed $20 million for the company, I put the first $1 million in, and then I went and raised $19 million. We actually raised $22 million. So we raised $21 million on top of the first $1 million. But I look at how do I accelerate a payback back to the investor? Yeah, sure. And so if it's going to take 5 or 10 years to get my money back, I'm not interested. Yeah. I want to see a payback in 18 months to 3 years, me as an individual investor. So I focus on the investor and making the investor happy. And that is a big thing that a lot of people never think about.
A real key, the investors first. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about how you personally vet risk and also some of the projects that you're working on now. More with Kevin Harrington in a minute. Don't go anywhere.
When visiting Gulf Shores, Alabama, make sure to visit the Gulf Coast Zoo, home of the little zoo that could from Animal Planet. Get up close in our petting zoo. Enjoy our unique animal encounters. More than 300 monkeys, bears, reptiles, big cats, parrots, and more call Gulf Coast home. Come on, go wild at the Alabama Gulf Coast Zoo.
Real estate today offers incredible opportunities, low prices, and extremely low interest rates. Hi, I'm Amy Norris from Amy Sells the Beach. Right now, there are opportunities in all areas. Our team can help you put your money to work finding your dream or investment property. And if you're looking to sell, no one can give you better exposure to buyers and make your property stand out. Experience matters when looking for opportunity. I'm Amy Norris. See why we're #1 at amysellsthebeach.com.
Now, I wanted to get to these, so knowing that I was going to come on and do the interview, we had a lot of fan mail come in, a lot of people from the viewers saying, ask him this, ask him that. So I wanted to see if we could work in a few of these questions from fans. We have a question here from Caleb Yonts from Alabama. He says, what was the lowest point in your life or fail that you've experienced? How did you come back? How did it push you? And what did you learn from it?
The lowest point in my business career was I had a business that was going like this in sales, but we ran out of capital, and so we ended up almost losing the whole company. And we got right down to the bare bones, almost just walk out the door and throw the keys in, even though we were still actually selling products. So we didn't plan properly for finances. Sure. And in hindsight, after that event, I ended up bringing on a bank president to help me run the business, because I was very good with getting the deals and getting the products and getting the shows and getting the sales. But if you don't have the right operations and finance people involved with you, you can lose the whole business. So that was a pretty major event. But it taught me to not let that happen again.
Well, one thing I've noticed too in the public eye, you're very transparent. You're very open about things, and which I really appreciate. So many people are afraid to talk about their failures. But man, if you get up to bat and hit a home run every time, you don't learn much. When you take those hard failures, that's when you really evaluate things and refine, tweak, and move forward. And those are the big lessons, for sure. We have another one from Dr. Samantha Graver in Florida. This is kind of bear with me here. If you were designing the ultimate entrepreneur, you were designing it, what elements would you be sure to include? And is there any for sure you would want to leave out?
Okay. So I think probably if it sounds like if this is almost like a robot entrepreneur, right? It would be have tons of energy and time, every day to be able to do whatever it takes, right? But I would say it's very important in entrepreneurship to be good in sales, to be good in selling yourself, selling your business, selling the vision, selling the dream. You can get good people to come along with you. You can get financing if you can talk the bankers and the investors to come along with you. And then you can also then surround yourself with the right team, because as an entrepreneur, unless it is a robot that is not human, you can't have all the skills. Right. Okay, so I think if you could have all the skills and you could design this robot that's the perfect entrepreneur, it would be one that has operational skills, financial skills, entrepreneurial skills, and sales skills, everything across the board equal. That probably doesn't exist, right? So I think that it probably the best thing that I could say that a good entrepreneur should have is the ability to assemble all of that and package it, bring it all together, package it, and then raise the capital around it. Because if you can get the team and the money for any vision, then you can build any business. That's what you need.
Yeah, and I think one of the elements to leave out, I know personally what I've experienced is ego, man. I mean, some of these guys come in with so much ego, it just kills deals, it makes everything slow. I even see people on Shark Tank try to leverage you guys. It's like, what are you doing? You can't leverage us. We have another question here from, let's see here, Trevor Barfield from Missouri, 9-year-old, big fan.
Oh, wow.
He says, why did you make your first infomercial, and how did you become so successful with it?
Okay, so the first infomercial was actually, I saw bars on the screen on my TV, and I called and found out that they just don't have enough programming to put in there. So I'm like, at midnight, the channels would go dark, and they would have either, when I say dark, test bars. And so I said, I'll give you something to put there. I'll find a product, and I'm going to put it right on there. So we started shooting videos around these products, and that was how it all started back in the early 80s. So that has been a big part of the success, but I didn't stop in just the U.S. I then took it to England, I took it to Saudi Arabia, I took it to Japan. So you always have to be, to the point, I think it was Trevor that asked, how did that become so successful after just doing one infomercial? It's because I didn't stop with one infomercial, I didn't stop with one category. I went from golf to fishing to beauty to fitness, crafts, hardware, etc. And then we went global with it. So you have to always be looking for the next opportunity, and that's the kind of thing that I like to do, is just to keep plugging along.
Keep plugging. Last one from fans, Chris Elowar from, I don't know where he's from. He's all over the place. Talking about investing in yourself. I know when I interviewed Brian Tracy, he talked about, the biggest investment you can make is an investment in yourself. What's your thoughts on that? What is the biggest investment you've made in yourself?
I think my wife when I hire coaches, I hire mentors, and I say hire. Sometimes I don't have to pay, but I generally like to, because if you ask for something for nothing, sometimes you don't get much back in return. So I hire coaches to coach me in the areas that I need help in, and so my wife says, I can't believe that you're spending money with somebody to do such and such, and I'm like, but I'm taking my game to another level.
It's not my wheelhouse.
So I believe in mentors and coaches, and I have a half a dozen right now that I utilize. So because
Mr. Wonderful's not one of them.
And Mr. Wonderful is not one of them now. Okay, so that to me, an entrepreneur has to know where they're strong and then where they need help. And I'll be the first to admit. And by the way, this wasn't until probably recently, after taking a lot of hard knocks, for making a lot of bad decisions. And by the way, I have failed more than I've succeeded. So Winston Churchill says it best. Success is being able to go from failure to failure without the loss of enthusiasm. Okay, so so it's hard to be enthused when you fail, but I say fail fast and fail cheap, and then get on to the big ones. So I love having people help me and support me in my goals, and I think that's important.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin. We appreciate it. Stick with us. We'll be right back with Kevin Harrington. Don't go anywhere.
Real estate today offers incredible opportunities, low prices, and extremely low interest rates. Hi, I'm Amy Norris from Amy Sells the Beach. Right now, there are opportunities in all areas. Our team can help you put your money to work finding your dream or investment property. And if you're looking to sell, no one can give you better exposure to buyers and make your property stand out. Experience matters when looking for opportunity. I'm Amy Norris. See why we're #1 at amysellsthebeach.com.
When visiting Gulf Shores, Alabama, make sure to visit the Gulf Coast Zoo, home of the little zoo that could from Animal Planet. Get up close in our petting zoo. Enjoy our unique animal encounters. More than 300 monkeys, bears, reptiles, big cats, parrots, and more call Gulf Coast home. Come on, go wild at the Alabama Gulf Coast Zoo.
Welcome back. We've been talking with Kevin Harrington. We've been talking about how to vet risk and some of the mistakes people make going into the tank. And certainly as investors, we all have things that we do personally to vet risk, and we're looking for a certain risk-reward ratio. Nothing's no risk, all one scenario.
Right.
But I'm sure with all the deals in Shark Tank and even after, not everything's a home run. Sometimes you're going to get something that just falls flat. In those scenarios, which I'm sure all of us have had, what do you do? Do you keep saying, just keep changing the strategy until it works, or sometimes do you get to that point with some things where you just have to say, it's time to cut my losses and I got to walk away and be unemotional?
Yes, interesting for me, some of the things I lost the most money on were my own projects that I got so close to.
Sure.
And so I don't like to do my own projects anymore because you get emotionally attached and you just keep throwing money into these projects. So as an investor, you have to set up parameters that you need to get to a certain point by a certain time. Now, if you don't get there, you might have to allow for a little bit of tweaking, but at certain times you just have to pull the plug or change the deal completely, because you might have to change equity structures. Especially, this is one of the things that a lot of people that come on Shark Tank don't realize. Let's say you do a deal where I am a minority partner and I own 20% and they own 80%, and now we need more capital. Well, they don't realize that they have to contribute more capital because they own the majority of the business. So now, if you want to change the deal, I'll put all the money in, but not if I still only own 20%. So, but yes, as far as vetting goes, I like opportunities that have, I call it test before you invest, meaning I want to see that there's something, that there's a pulse on something, or a business that maybe they can get orders or they have orders, but they don't have the capital. Sure. So that's a safer investment than a complete startup that might never get off the ground, because startups are very, very risky. So I prefer to put money in, even when I look at a product for an infomercial, if it's been in a catalog, if it's been on a shopping channel, if it's, I like to say, test before I invest. So now it's tested successful somewhere, now it needs capital to roll it out. That's a much safer investment than, I got this idea, will you fund the development and the tooling and the manufacturing?
I have an idea. Make it a company.
Yes, okay. So, there's different things that I look for in a vetting process.
Well, we've talked a lot about success, and obviously you've had your share of it. But as we all know, starting out as entrepreneurs, there's a real grind in the beginning. You got to go out there and pound pavement. It's not an easy thing. People look at the end result, I'm sure, of where you are now and saying, oh man, I want to do that. But there's a time where you're experiencing a lot of pain and discomfort. You're taking your share of nosebleeds. Talk a little bit about the early days of some of the things, some of the grind. I know Mark Cuban talks about eating ketchup sandwiches. I remember being evicted several times myself, taking some risks.
Sure. Well, in the early days of infomercials, we didn't know what categories worked, what products worked.
Sure.
So we would try things and not knowing whether they were going to be successful. So
back then, you're beta testing the whole.
We're beta testing every category.
Yeah.
So beauty turned out to be great because of the continuity aspect, right? Fitness turned out to be great because America wants to lose weight and they want to get into shape. But because they generally don't, they're always going to be open for another fitness product down the road. Golf turned out to be very tough because it's a smaller marketplace. You know, if you're selling a kitchen product like the Ginsu knives that I was involved with, everybody's got a kitchen. Yeah. Everybody needs a knife, at some point or another, right? But not everybody needs a golf club or a special kind of tea or something, right? So golf and fishing became a little more niched, not undoable. Just you have to know how to go about those kind of products. So yes, we went through many learning curves and ended up with being the pioneers, getting blood running down our ankles from testing things that had no chance for success along the way.
Being first is nice, but sometimes being first has its pains too.
Right.
Now, I want to talk about a few of the things you're doing. I saw that you were actually served as a judge on the USF Young Innovators Competition.
Correct.
Working with children in the Tampa area, pitch products.
Yes.
How important is it? What does it mean to you to work with these young kids and help them and really give back?
I was involved, actually was one of the founders of the Young Entrepreneurs Organization, which became the Entrepreneurs Organization. And then I do a lot of things with colleges. We go into grade schools. It's a little tougher to go down into the grade schools. We get into like the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade though. These kids are starting to come up with great ideas. So I like to empower inventors, entrepreneurs across the board. Yeah. Just this weekend, I was involved with the Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization. They have 200 chapters, 200 colleges around the U.S. So I donate my time and really mentor and roll up my sleeves. And I love working with the youth in America because this is where the next round of projects are going to be coming from for me down the road. Yeah. So it's sort of planting the seeds today and empowering them because so many people, when I grew up, my mother was like, no, I don't want you to be an entrepreneur. I don't want you to be an inventor. And that was sort of this is 40 years ago, right? Today, I think it's a little more acceptable to be an entrepreneur. So I'm there to be a cheerleader for these young entrepreneurs, and I love doing it.
We live in, especially our country, we live in this place where you go out, you get a degree, you go out and beg for jobs, instead of the mindset of maybe I can go create my own job and maybe create jobs for others. And I think that shift has to happen young. You got to start young, teaching people financial principles, taking risk, things like that. So
my father was an entrepreneur, and I've learned a lot from him. I worked prior to my own businesses. When I was 11 years old, I worked in his restaurants and just learned quite a bit about what it was like to be an entrepreneur. And I saw the tough work that he did, but then I saw the fruits of that, and that's what I wanted to have for myself.
I know you attribute him to one of your personal heroes. You also created a really amazing association called the EO, which you talked about, Entrepreneur Organization. Now, this has over 10,000 members. There's like 46 countries that it's in, it's got a combined gross revenue of like 500 billion. Could that even be? I can't comprehend that. What are the qualifications to get into the EO, and where do you think it's heading?
EO, when we first got it started, we actually said you couldn't be over 40. Now it's over 50, but you have to have a business that does at least $1 million a year in business. And that is a qualification that they want substantial entrepreneurs. They don't want people that just want to be an entrepreneur. If you have a business doing $1 million in sales, you're an entrepreneur. Sure. So that's the qualification. And you have to be committed to going to regular meetings and events. And there's things happening on a monthly basis, and there's global opportunities also. But EO is a really fine organization, tremendous people. I was just yesterday in Orlando with the former managing director of EO 2 years ago, Kevin Langley, who lives down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he's just amazing. The networking and the people and the knowledge that they bring to the table for you as an entrepreneur is is just unbelievable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I know that, so it's really not just a matter of, hey, I have an idea, I want to be, they got to have some value. They got to really have something that they bring to the table.
Yeah.
Now, your book, Act Now, How to Turn Ideas into Multi-Million-Dollar Products, came out a couple of years ago. I actually picked it up. I've actually gleaned a lot from it. Can you tell us a little bit about what's next as far as projects that you're working on? Or
Yes, my next project, because I mentioned television viewership is declining. It's off 50% in 12 years.
Darn it!
Okay. Now, where's it moving? Yeah. It's moving towards mobile, and so I cut a deal with Sprint, and I'm launching the first ever mobile shopping channel, and it's called Star Shop, and it's going to launch in the first quarter next year. And this is a celebrity-based shopping channel that every day we're going to be push notifying you with opportunities from celebrity products. We have Adam Levine, Nicki Minaj, Jennifer Lopez, Sofia Vergara, some really top celebrities. We're selling their products, their jewelry, their perfumes, their clothing, fashion, beauty, everything across the board from celebrities. And Sprint is my partner. They're going to preload this app on every Sprint phone.
Wow.
So it's a really cool project.
Amazing. For the entrepreneurs watching, thinking, I want to go out there and I want a career in TV, or I have an idea, I want to take my idea. Any advice that you can give to our viewers about getting started and getting in the pool?
The one thing that I say is a lot of people they think that it's just going to hit them somewhere, like at work or at home or whatever. You have to get out. And I ask, every time I speak, I say, how many people here go to more than 2 or 3 trade shows a year? And it's generally only a couple of hands out of hundreds. Out of 500 people, maybe 5 hands. I do 35 trade shows a year. Why? Because I'm out looking for opportunities. I'm building my funnel. And that's where I get my deals. And and also coming from Shark Tank, yes, I get a couple phone calls. But if I don't keep pounding the streets, you have to go out. I go to Chamber of Commerce meetings. I go to networkings. I go to trade shows. And so when I do this, I meet people, I interact, and I build my funnel, and then I look at the opportunities that come from that. So be curious. Put your mind into, I say, curiosity overload, and projects are going to come your way. And then you can pick between, if you've got 10 things to look at and you only want to do one, now you got 10 to analyze before you can pick the really one that's best for you. So otherwise, most people, they don't have even one to look at. So you got to build your funnel, and that's the key thing.
Right. And be relentless, right? Get
Yes.
out there, don't quit. I know most people give up 5 minutes before the miracle, but you're certainly one of those guys that didn't do it, and you've made such an impact on millions of people. I could sit here and talk to you all day. We're out of time, Kevin, but thank you so much for giving us a bit of your time.
Dan, it's been a pleasure.
That's our show, guys, and I hope you enjoyed the interview with Kevin Harrington. And again, as always, don't forget to get involved in your local community and be forgiving of others. Good night, everybody.